everyone. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, bringing you once again what to look for in the night sky, this time for the week of August 23rd, 2021. And if you've been watching, we're going to follow a similar pattern here. As we're going to circle back to things we've all talked about. We talked about before, all of these things, many different ideas, and we're going to weave them together and look at a few new items, return to a couple of things, learn a little bit more about those things, and then move on a little bit. And we're going to center our attention on Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is typically the asterism, the bright pattern of stars in Sagittarius is associated with a teapot. The body of the teapot, the lid of the teapot, the spout, and the handle of the teapot. And we can identify all of these stars. So I'm sure we've talked about this before. Sagittarius is an interesting constellation in that there aren't any really bright stars in Sagittarius that stick out. Not bright stars like in Orion or Vega in Lyra or something like that, right? Where you've got really bright stars that pop, Aldebaran, Antares, the list goes on. Those stars don't exist here in Sagittarius. And yet all of these stars are not too faint. You can see them. You don't need a great southern horizon, and you don't need a really dark sky to be able to see these stars. A lot of these stars in this asterism that we've drawn, most all of these stars, maybe all of the stars, are between about 1.8 magnitude and 3.2. So there's not a wide range. Remember, the magnitude system counts backward, and every step in magnitude is an apparent brightness change of a factor of about 2.5. And so these stars are, really, really bright stars are going to be magnitude 0 or 1, or something in that range, -1 to 0 to 1. And so these stars typically hovering around 2 are not terribly faint, but they're not terribly bright either. Now, for those of you who live as far north as I live here at 43 degrees north latitude, Sagittarius is far enough south that you're looking through a lot of atmosphere and make it a little bit harder to see. But right now, the way we're going to look to try to find Sagittarius, if you haven't before, is to start with Antares. And remember last week, we talked about the moon sliding past Antares, and again within about 5 degrees of Antares at the beginning of the week, and by the end of the week, it was at Saturn and the Jupiters on out here. And so it ended the week passing Saturn and Jupiter within about 5 degrees of each of those objects. So we had a nice week of seeing the moon slide past some bright objects. We're going to use 2 of those bright objects. Hopefully you found them last week and you're familiar with them and you're good with them, having practiced watching the moon go by. So we're going to look at Antares and Saturn. And that star in the lid of the dome of the teapot, the top of the teapot, Caus Borealis it's called. This is the brightest star down here in the right corner of the bottom of the body of the teapot is Caus Australius. So those are the northern part of the bow and the southern part of the bow that you see right here, and that reminds us that Sagittarius is an archer. Okay, and so we got Caus, the brightest star in this pattern that we've drawn right here, not the brightest star in Sagittarius necessarily, but the brightest in this group is Caus Australius, and this one right at the top of the teapot is about a 2nd magnitude star, is Caus Borealis. And it's about halfway between Antares and Saturn on a line. So that gives us a place to look. We're looking for Sagittarius. Right now, we go outside just after dark. You don't have to, as soon as it's dark, you go outside, you look south. And when you look south, you'll see Antares starting to get to the west of south. It's across the meridian and thinking about getting on and setting. And Saturn's still to the east of the meridian and rising up into the sky just after dark. Halfway in between them is Sagittarius. And go out and try to find this pattern of the teapot and see what you can see right there and identify these stars, Caus Borealis, Caus Australius there in the body and the lid of the teapot. Then move about, once you find the teapot, practice that, and once you find the teapot, about the height of the teapot from bottom to lid top, move up, and you've got this group of open star clusters. Open star clusters are these clusters that typically have a few hundred stars in them. They may have less, they may have more, but a few hundred stars in them. And the stars are such that you can see glittering individual stars. And you've got a nice sort of curve, an arc of them right here. And what you have is this group. M16 is at the top, and you move down to M17, M18, and I wrote M23 on there, but it's not M23, it's M24. You have M23 on there twice. At the bottom of the group is M24, and So you got this little arc of open star clusters. Now, these open star clusters live in the disk of our galaxy. Remember, if we were to draw our galaxy here, the disk of the galaxy would look something like this. To say, well, there's the disk, there's the center of the galaxy, the disk is like this, we're out here. When we look at Sagittarius, we're looking right back at the center of the galaxy in this direction. So these open star clusters are scattered along the disk of our galaxy right here. And we see them at different distances from us, but we see this group, and you can probably see these objects in a good pair of binoculars. The trick that you have finding these open star clusters is they're a condensation of stars. They're individual stars that look like that. If you have a small telescope with a low power eyepiece, even better. Start here, move up to the top of the dome, and then just go straight on up from the middle of the base to the top on up and see if you can find some of these star clusters in this region. That same distance up, you should be at about M16. M17, M18, and M24 form that little arc across there of open star clusters, and look for patterns of stars like this. The trick that you have is this, looking toward the center of our galaxy, right down through the disk of our galaxy like this. This is a ridiculously star-rich region of the sky. There's stars everywhere, and so these are just enhancements of the background stars. You'll see a lot of stars, and then you'll see an enhanced region where there are open star clusters. You can't always tell when you're looking at a star cluster sometimes, just because there's more stars there. We know it's a cluster because if we do the careful work, we can see that these stars are all the same distance from us. And we have other things we can do there to look at evolution of the stars as well to suggest they were born at the same time. But in any event, I think you can find these in your binoculars, some of these. If you get down to the bottom of this arc, where M24 is, and go this direction a little ways and this direction, you get M23 and M25. M23 we like there because that's the region of the sky that we study, that we take research data on, is M23 open star cluster right in the middle of our field of view. Go to our webpage, luther.edu/astronomy, and you can see pictures of some of these objects, particularly M23. We have a lot of, we have a million pictures of M23 over the last 20 years. And so we take a lot of data of M23 right there, and you can look and see what these open star clusters, and you can read more about these open star clusters. But for the week ahead, find the Teapot of Sagittarius. Do so by finding bright Antares, the orange star, off to the west, and bright Saturn, the yellow object, off to the east, and look halfway in between. And then move from the bottom of the base of the Teapot up to the top, and up that same distance again, and you can find M16, M17, M18, M24 in a little arc, a little curve of open star clusters up that way. Poke around with your binoculars and see if you can see them. Then if you have a small telescope, once you've seen them that way, start to dig in there and see if you can find these open star clusters. And remember, what you're doing is looking right at the center of the galaxy and finding these groups of stars that were born in the same time at the same cloud of gas down the disk of our galaxy there. Good luck with it. Enjoy finding these things. Just remind yourself where Saturn and Antares are, if nothing else, and then see if you can find the pattern of Sagittarius in between there, and then take it to the next level if you want to, and look for these open star clusters up in here. Good luck, clear skies, and have a good week, everyone.